Well, the fifth one is pretty obvious. Keep investing in culture. Because, of course, the sort of 24/7 phenomena we talk about is about recreation or living as much as it is about labor. And those become more intertwined in the modern era than perhaps they were a generation or a century ago. Right? Some of you probably have heard or have visited Bilbao, which has made a kind of remarkable transformation. It's a Spanish city, northern city, and everyone thinks that the museum did it. Well, the museum, the kind of Frank Gehry Museum, was the status symbol of the resurgence of Bilbao. But under a very complicated set of plans, they minded the gap. They moved their port. They put more housing in. They built lots of open spaces, more new housing. They did lots of things to have the city recover from its kind of long malaise. It was sort of the Pittsburgh of Spain. It was the steel-building city. And the museum was not the end product. The museum was a kind of one of the many catalysts and a symbol of the resurgence of the city, but not the only thing that placed it back on the map, and that's very important to remember. I heard today about how maybe there should be a little bit more synergy between the university and the downtown. They're very close, and yet somehow not enough interaction takes place. Well, that's true in many places, but here's an example from Baton Rouge, which has LSU about 2.5 miles from the downtown, and the downtown is foundering a little bit. Well, in this case, of course, what LSU managed to be convinced of doing is building an arts center and a small little program related to the arts, curatorial arts, and be convinced to place it downtown. And of course, in the process, they updated an old building, but of course they put a very modern-looking building up on top and around it. And this, just by this small little kind of conjoining of university and downtown, a substantial amount of interaction now takes place. The roof of that old building is now one of the kind of best places in all of probably Louisiana to go and sip a cup of whatever they sip and look out over the Mississippi and enjoy the downtown. So sometimes it takes a relatively small device. In this case, no great department, no big housing project, no great dormitories moved from LSU downtown, but a particular institution that, of course, fits in a downtown, a cultural institution, that starts to create that kind of synergy. And over time, of course, classes are beginning to be held, at least related to, kind of, to the fine arts program, as well as bringing some students along with others that enjoy the facility itself. So think about how you can move the university downtown, but what parts of it might in fact initiate the minding of the gap between the downtown and the university campus. This is one of my favorite European cities. I wish you all vacations there. This is Vienna, a beautiful classical city. But look at how they're bastardizing it. Pardon the phrase. Look at that. They're not afraid to deal with it creatively, artistically. So when one says invest in culture, it doesn't mean some old fuddy-duddy museum only. It means allowing kind of life to appear in both sort of, wonderful and sometimes slightly funky ways. So one of the wonderful things about Vienna as you walk these historic streets is that you encounter things like this, strange bits of architecture amidst the classical buildings, wonderful little bars and so forth. Look at that kind of little roof attic over there in the kind of upper right. So investing in culture is investing in the kind of the innovation society and the artistic society, not only in the ways that we think about, artists like to live in loft buildings, but in the ability of sort of an artistic temperament to imbue life, continue to imbue life into cities, old and new. And this happens in many places. Something that our office did now about 15 years ago, transformed a dilapidated old port in Montreal that, because it was so empty, of course affected the historic neighborhood, the original neighborhood right beyond. So we used many of the artifacts of the old port to then create a park system. but without necessarily trying to kind of continue to recapture the industrial aesthetic. There's a kind of Cirque du Soleil right there. The point, you can't swim in the Montreal River there. There's, it's a little cold and all kinds of crappy things are in there. But we create an opportunity to appear as if you could. In other words, that area where you swim is actually a pool, but you feel like you're swimming in the St. Lawrence River. So think creatively as you preserve history, as opposed to embalm history, which is not the way of urbanism. The city of Dallas, amazing. They want to be better than the cities that they think are better kind of on the East Coast. A fabulous ambition in Dallas. I wish we had as much of it in Boston these days. Have built an amazing arts district. Again, I encourage all of you to visit it. They've collected by now 6 Pritzker Prize winners, more than exist in any other street anywhere on the planet. And they're continuing to do so, largely through private donations. The last 2 of which are the Opera House by Norman Foster and an experimental theater by Rem Koolhaas. An amazing addition to their downtown, which, you can imagine was largely office buildings that everyone sort of left by 5 o'clock and never on the weekends. All of a sudden, that corridor with these cultural institutions have sort of reversed the fortunes of the downtown. So what are the challenges there? Well, obviously, many challenges. Figuring out the kinds of institutions that one can reattract or invent, even better invent, in order to kind of continue to make culture a dominant aspiration of downtown life in the cities.